The Last Cup wasn't your typical cafe. Nestled on the edge of town, its peeling paint and crooked sign held a strange allure. Inside, shadows danced in the dim gaslight, clinging to dusty velvet booths and cobwebbed chandeliers. The air hung heavy with the scent of old coffee and something else, something faintly floral and unsettling. Ava, a writer with a penchant for the peculiar, found herself inexplicably drawn to the place. As she hesitantly approached the counter, a bell above the door chimed, a mournful clang that echoed through the emptiness. A woman materialized from behind a chipped porcelain teacup, her smile as brittle as the aged china. "Welcome, dear," her voice rasped, the usual. Ava, the only customer, felt a prickle crawl up her spine but managed a polite, "Just browsing, thanks." The woman, introducing herself as Ms. Eleanor, launched into an unnerving monologue about the cafe's history. It had been a social hub for artists and writers in a bygone era, a place teeming with life and creativity. Then, a fire ripped through, leaving only the shell and a lingering sadness. As Ava explored the dusty shelves lined with antique books, a faint piano melody drifted through the air. There was no piano in sight. A shiver danced down her arms. Suddenly, a book tumbled from the shelf, landing at her feet. It was a leather-bound diary, its pages filled with swirling script and faded sketches. It was the diary of a young woman named Alara, a talented pianist who frequented the Last Cup before the fire. Alara's words spoke of heartbreak, a love lost, and the final, tragic performance at the cafe. The final entry chilled Ava to the bone. "Tonight, I play not for the living, but for the one I loved and lost." In the melody, we meet again. The piano music swelled, melancholic and beautiful. A ghostly figure materialized by the window, a young woman with flowing hair, her fingers dancing over invisible keys. The music resonated with a strange power, drawing Ava in. She felt a connection to Alara, a shared ache of loss. Suddenly, Ms. Eleanor materialized beside her, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. "She plays for a companion, dear. Someone to join her." Ava recoiled, a scream catching in her throat. Tears welled in her eyes as she understood. This cafe wasn't just haunted, it was a gateway, a bridge between worlds. Alara sought not just to be heard, but to be joined, perhaps even replaced. With a desperate lunge, Ava grabbed the diary and sprinted for the door. The music shrieked behind her, a mournful cry. The bell above the door clanged ominously as she escaped into the cool night air. Clutching the diary, she knew the story wasn't over. The Last Cup held a secret, a melody of loss, and Ava, the writer who craved the strange, was now inexplicably tied to it. The aroma of freshly brewed espresso wasn't enough to mask the underlying chill that permeated the midnight hour. This wasn't your average late-night study haunt. The mismatched furniture seemed to hold its breath, and the only sounds were the rhythmic tick of the grandfather clock and the occasional rustle from the back room. Sarah, a university student perpetually behind on deadlines, found herself drawn to its peculiarity. As she settled into a worn armchair with her laptop, a sense of unease prickled her skin. A book titled Midnight Whispers lay forgotten on the table. Intrigued, she opened it. Faded photographs revealed a bustling cafe, filled with laughter and life. But the accompanying text spoke of a devastating betrayal, a love story turned sour. The final entry sent shivers down her spine. They say the cafe remembers, and whispers the truth to those who listen. Suddenly, the cafe plunged into darkness. The only light came from an unseen source illuminating a corner booth. There, a young man sat hunched over, his face obscured by shadow. A low murmur filled the air, a heartbroken plea for forgiveness. Curiosity overcoming fear, Sarah approached the booth. "Hello," she ventured, her voice barely a whisper. The figure lifted its head, revealing sorrowful eyes and a face etched with despair. He introduced himself as William, a poet who frequented the cafe in its past life. He spoke of a love lost due to a misunderstanding, a harsh word that drove her away forever. He was trapped, reliving that moment eternally, unable to find peace. As Sarah listened, the whispers intensified, a cacophony of emotions swirling around them. The book mentioned a hidden love letter, a final goodbye William never sent. Desperate to help, Sarah scoured the cafe with William's spectral guidance. They found it tucked away in a dusty corner, a heartfelt confession stained with age. Tears welled in William's translucent form as he held the letter. He looked at Sarah, a flicker of hope in his eyes. As she read the letter aloud, a warm light filled the room. The whispers calmed, replaced by a gentle breeze that carried the scent of lavender, William's love's favorite. A faint smile graced his lips before he began to fade, a soft, "thank you," hanging in the air. Light returned to the cafe, revealing the normalcy of morning. The midnight owl was no longer shrouded in darkness, but an air of bittersweet peace lingered. Sarah tucked the book under her arm, a newfound appreciation for the stories hidden within these walls. The cafe wasn't just haunted, it was a repository of lost souls, yearning for a chance to be heard, understood, and perhaps, finally, released. The flickering neon sign proclaiming, "The Rusty Spork," cast an unsettling glow on Ethan, a budding photographer with a fascination for the macabre. The diner, a relic from a bygone era, seemed perpetually stuck in twilight, even on a sunny afternoon. The chipped chrome stools sat vacant at the counter, the only movement a lone jukebox playing a scratched jazz record on repeat. Ethan, drawn by whispers of ghostly activity, decided to photograph the interior. As he raised his camera, a faint smell of burnt toast filled the air. The jukebox sputtered, the melody morphing into a frantic, off-key dirge. A clatter echoed from the back, followed by a ghostly wail. Curiosity, laced with a healthy dose of fear, propelled Ethan towards the swinging kitchen doors. Inside, the air shimmered with heat. A spectral figure, a young woman with fiery red hair, hovered over a malfunctioning grill, flames licking at her ghostly form. Ethan, his voice trembling, managed, "Who are you?" The apparition whirled around, eyes blazing with a spectral fire. "Ruby," she spat, "and this diner was my life. Ruined by a faulty wire, a single spark." She pointed a translucent finger at the sputtering jukebox. "They say it plays the night I died, forever reminding me of what I lost." A faded newspaper clipping on the counter caught Ethan's eye. It spoke of a fire that claimed the Rusty Spork, a young chef named Ruby, and an unfinished album playing on the jukebox. A strange sense of empathy washed over him. "Your music still plays," he ventured. "Maybe that's not a bad thing." He pointed toward the jukebox. A ghost of a smile flickered across Ruby's face. She approached the jukebox, her form seeming to solidify. With a touch, the music calmed, the discordant notes replaced by a smooth melody, the one presumably interrupted on the night of the fire. As the music filled the diner, a feeling of peace settled over the room. The flickering light steadied, the scent of burnt toast fading. Ruby's form solidified further, tears welling in her ghostly eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice no longer a mournful wail. "For letting me hear it one more time." Ethan lowered his camera, a newfound respect for the cafe's haunting settling in. The Rusty Spork wasn't just haunted, it was a place where unfinished stories found a final note, a place where the past could be relived and perhaps, finally, laid to rest.